Hi, I've just come up to the hospital to have a look at the site for the planning application for the extension to the hospital car park. I thought it was worth giving a bit of an explanation about what it's going to look like, where it's going to be and why it's necessary. So some of you may know that the hospital is undergoing some fairly extensive redevelopment at the moment. The existing operating theatres are being pulled down and they're going to be replaced with a new elective hub with new operating theatres and a procedure suite, so that a lot more daycare surgery can take place. And the idea of that, of course, is to reduce national health waiting lists, which can only be good for our local population. But along with the development of the hospital comes a need for additional parking spaces, particularly for the NHS staff who are going to be looking after the patients here. And so this application is for a temporary car park for 5 years to be on the top of the Oysterfields playing area. We're going to have a look at that in a moment. This is a 5-year temporary solution while the hospital trust looks for a more permanent solution, which would involve a higher number of parking spaces. So just before we go and move down there, the one thing I will say is that the new car parking space, assuming it's approved, will not have any disabled parking bays. That's because it's a bit further away from the main hospital building. So what's going to happen instead is that one of the areas at the far end there, just beyond where that white van is, will have 6 disabled designated parking bays, so that there are more disabled parking bays for access to the hospital. So let's go and have a look at where the car park's actually going to be. So here we are now at the top of the Oysterfields playing area. As you can see, we're just next to the basketball hoops and the footpath entrance to the hospital. This is where the entrance to the new car park, assuming it's approved, will be. So cars will come in from the normal entrance and will turn right into this area here. Just in front of me, where the camera is, will be the entrance to the car park, and that will be controlled by automatic number plate recognition cameras. So only hospital staff will be able to enter the car park. This path coming up from Oysterfields will still enable access through to the hospital. So there will be a gate around the security perimeter fence of the new car park, and then there will be an asphalt path which crosses over to the main hospital park. There will also be a CCTV camera overlooking this area, the entrance area of the new car park. The police have said that they recommend that the security cameras around the new car park are actively monitored by the hospital security staff, rather than just being a passive deterrent. The police also said in the original application that they wanted to see a security fence put around the car park, so that has now been included, and there is also a lighting plan which is being developed, which needs to be signed off by the Environment Agency and by the police to make sure that it gives suitable levels of security. So I'm just going to take a walk now down the length of the car park and give you a bit more information about what that's actually going to look like. I'm just walking now along past the basketball court at the top. The basketball court will remain, but there will be a 3-metre high fence that stops the balls from going over and damaging the cars or getting lost. And it's been recommended that the fence should be black, because that's the least intrusive colour for a development of this sort. So the basketball fence will be 3 metres high, which is sort of me plus half of me again, and the rest of the perimeter fence will be 1.5 metres high, which is sort of almost me, up to my shoulder height. We've had some questions about whether there will be electric vehicle charging points, and the answer to that is no, those are not included in the plan. That's because this is a temporary solution. It's only intended to last 5 years, and at the end of that time the whole of this area has to be restored to the current state that it's in now, and therefore it's been deemed that it's not really worth digging up the grass here to bury electric cabling, so there won't be any electrical vehicle charging points. So you might wonder what's going to happen to the play area that we see behind us. One of the plus points, I guess, of the potential development is that the developers have to legally commit to giving £102,000 to improve the play area. Now, the plans haven't been decided yet in terms of exactly what that's going to be spent on, but we can probably reasonably assume that the play area equipment over there will be replaced, and that we'll see new hoops and goal fences for the basketball court there. And what about biodiversity? Well, quite a lot of the grass and topsoil is going to need to be dug up to make space, and that's got to be kept somewhere ready for making good again in 5 years' time. And so the plan is that down on this end of the development there will be a grass mound which will be about a metre high, so up to my waist since we're using metre measure. Now, the original plan was for that mound to be grassed over, but a recommendation went in that could actually be used for wildflower seeding, and that recommendation's been accepted, and so that's what will happen. There will be a wildflower mound here. And some people have also asked about the access just down there to Everlasting Lane for walkers and their dogs and families, and there will be a 1 metre gap in that grass mound to enable that footpath to remain accessible. Now, one last point about the area behind me. Some people have said, well, that area isn't used, why don't we actually just put the car park there? And the answer to that is, in itself, in the short term, there's not enough space there, but as I said at the beginning, there is an investigation going on to look at the possibility of building a multi-storey car park facility just there and in that area, but that's not definite yet, which is why we need to have a short-term solution in place. Now, I want to carry on talking about biodiversity because some of you may be aware that the National Planning Framework guidelines changed earlier this year, and that any new development from now on must have a net biodiversity gain of 10%. Now, in fact, this application went in before that part of the framework was adjusted, and therefore it's not a basis within itself for this application to be rejected. And in fact, the simple truth is that there is a biodiversity loss from this development. The mitigating factor is that in 5 years' time it has to be restored to the level that it is at now, and we've also had some suggestions that actually after 5 years it will just become a permanent solution, or the land will be sold off for development. Well, none of us know what the landscape will be in 5 years' time, but if there is any suggestion of that, then any plan at that time will not only have to restore the levels of biodiversity as they are at the moment, but also then include that 10% gain. So to sum up on the development, there are going to be net 120 new car park spaces, which will still leave a small deficit of what is actually needed for the expansion of the hospital, and to make sure that all of the staff have safe, convenient and nearby parking spaces, which obviously is a good point for their well-being and also for the services to the hospital. In 5 years' time, everything needs to be restored to just how it is. The area that is affected is the area behind me. What isn't affected, other than in a positive way, is the playing area, £102,000 investment, and you can see the houses at the top of Temple View over there, which should be far enough away according to the environmental assessment for there not to be noise, air or light pollution affecting any of the residents. So there we have it. I hope that information has been quite helpful to give you a feel for what is being proposed. This application comes in front of the Planning Committee on Monday evening at 7 p.m. Myself and Sinead Howland will both be at the meeting, and Sinead is going to be speaking. and then the development committee will need to make the decision. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to raise anything with us, then please do get in touch by email, which you'll see on the bottom of the screen in a moment, or just give us a call, or come and see us there and we'll be happy to chat to you. Thanks very much for your attention.